I am Perifimu and welcome to Spoiler Talk Part 2. If you've not seen my first spoiler talk for Avengers Endgame, you can go and check that out. That is one of my most recent uploads before this video. And go and check out. If you so happen, by the grace of God, on terms of unfortunate events and you have found yourself on this video, you've not seen Avengers Endgame, please click off this video and go and watch any of my other tribute reactions or movie reviews are on my channel. And I'm going to be nice here and give you 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's talk spoilers. I hope you're gone. Okay. Okay, let's begin where we left off, and we just finished talking about Black Widow, which now leads me now to talk about Nebula. And within Avengers Endgame, I really like, on the whole, if you've been on the journey since the first Guardians of the Galaxy film, and we've now got up until the point of Avengers Endgame, I really appreciate her character arc and just how much more likable now that she's become actually, you know. And I think a part of it as well, I think one of the reasons why Nebula is now, I think now because she's going to be a lot more relatable and likable, and you know, she kind of started off as somewhat as this villain actually. And now she's now turned into this likable character that wants to right her wrongs, you know. And how funny is this, you know, because it's a similar character arc to Tony in a sense, because in the beginning, Tony, through his journey in the MCU, in the eyes of other people, he wasn't the most likable character. He was the billionaire philanthropist that was on his high horse and had an ego. And you can see this kind of this arc with Nebula where she is perceivably known as a bad person, but now, because she's had all these other interactions and because she's coming of age with herself and learning about what does she need and what does she need from the people around her and what does she want from her life, ultimately has led to her having a really strong character arc now going into Guardians of the Galaxy 3, you know, setting up the new, I think this is pretty cool. I'm calling it the new Annihilation Saga, the next 22 films. So, you know, and I think partly so is because in the beginning of Avengers Endgame, we've had Tony have that interaction with Nebula, you know. This is how you play a game. This is how you show empathy. This is how you know, Tony was openly making the most of what he had and was, you know, trying to brush up all of the pros that he's learned throughout his life and give that to Nebula. And that's going to really show going into the next phase of the MCU. So yeah, loved everything with Nebula. I've only grown to love her more and more. And this is what now leads me to Gamora, because now we've got a little bit of a situation here, guys, because with Gamora, as far as I understand, with the Soul Stone in Avengers Infinity War, in that timeline, that is obviously the real Gamora, and she is the present Gamora, but she's dead. And now that we've now gone in time to the point of 2014, the first Guardians of the Galaxy film, that is the past Gamora that has now ended up into the future of Endgame. So, because she has that whole interaction with Quill and she needs him in the nuts. And I think that is not... So I think we've now need to have this whole real rebuilding process with Gamora and her interacting with the Guardians of the Galaxy and how to work. And you know what's going to be great is that Nebula's now going to be that person of reminding her who she is and ultimately Nebula's going to have to come, you know, kind of let her demons out of her closet, as to say, you know, okay, at this previous time I tried to kill you, and then guess what, at this time I tried to kill you again, and that's going to lead up to a nice debate, and it's going to have a nice dynamic going into the third Guardians of the Galaxy film. So could someone, because I think that is what's actually happened. That's not the present Gamora. That is the Gamora from the past that now has ended in the future. If I'm wrong, could somebody notify me if I'm wrong, or if I am talking sense about that? Because I'd like to know for myself. Because I need to see the film and not a second and third time to understand what that was actually for. But I think I'm hitting the right note there with Gamora. That is Gamora from the past that's ended up in the future. Now let's talk about Thanos in this film. He's still cunning as usual. He's still a complete sociopathic arsehole, and I love this scene of him looking back into the past. And obviously he sees Thor cutting off his head, and he has no regrets, and he's at peace with it, and he's like, destiny. It's just like, usually in every other generic kind of villain situation, you know, you'd expect them to do a Kylo Ren, pick their helmet up and smash it from wall to wall and have a tantrum. He was proud of his achievement. And this is what makes Thanos one of the most, I think, scariest villains, you know. So yeah, he was, on the whole, he was awesome. And one little small plot hole, not a plot hole, but a little small discrepancy that I've got with Thanos' character. Do you remember in Infinity War where he was saying, you know, to bring balance to the universe is for the greater good? Because if one thing, you know, the whole thing, you know, if one thing tips to one side or the other, then bad repercussions come from it. And we know that with Thanos, that on Titan there was this mass outbreak of a disease where there was a certain amount of people where they were ill, and he took it upon himself that for the greater good, for the others' sake of the other people, that the people that were ill, they had to go and they had to be perish, and they had to be gone, so that the other half can live a more fruititious life, a happier life, and full mouths and full bellies. We get that whole scene in Infinity War when Thanos is talking with Gamora. I think it's near the end of the second act leading into the third of Infinity War. So we get this whole ideology speech from him about how there can be actual good out of what he's doing. And this has just been something that I've been thinking about by myself. And I've been thinking to myself, with Thanos' character, it would have been so awesome to see that if in Avengers Endgame that they were showing certain scenes that, I don't know, the Avengers are sitting down in the headquarters, they put the TV on, and there's these news anchors that are saying, you know, well, pollution rates have gone down, there's no more pollution, you know, there's no more the seas are not rising anymore, the world is now in a better place, and you know, less disease, less viruses, or more oxygen on planet Earth. I would have liked to seen something like that, because what that would have then done is that would have then put the Avengers in the headspace of, do we go back in time to fill this void that we're feeling, to bring back family members, or do we don't do it and we you know, do we stick with the way things are now, or do we go back in time to find the Infinity Stones and redo the snap? I would have liked to see that dynamic again, but yet again, we don't want to make a Civil War Part 2. That's the only problem. But I think that would have been an issue that would have been great to address in Avengers Endgame, you know? Because even if it was just a thing of that, there's more plants. I mean, there is. You can see that in Avengers Endgame, especially with Scott Lang when he's looking for his daughter. You can see that there's more. You know, there's more trees. There's more. There's no cars on the road. Everything's become a. I would like to have actually made it a thing that the planet's actually in a good place than what it was before Thanos' snap. I think that would have been sick. But yet again, it wasn't really touched upon. I can deal with it. I can leave that up to my own imagination. But I think if the writers and the producers made a prominent thing, that would have gave Endgame maybe another element that wasn't previously there. You know, I mean, to put in comparison, look at The Dark Knight. You know, we get that whole sequence with Bruce and the Joker. And the Joker's saying, you know, you put so much faith in these people, but when it comes down to a certain situation with people in general, they will turn on you, and there will be a civil war. There will be unrest amongst the people. You know, it just so happened that in The Dark Knight, obviously, his idea didn't plan the way that it was going to play out. But when we got to The Dark Knight Rises, the Joker's prophecy came to life, didn't it? There was people that were behind Bane, and then there was people that were getting behind Gotham, and then we got to see that civil war. But my main point is that the Joker's prophecy came true, whereas with Thanos, it was just something that was just dropped at a hat and it was forgotten about. You know, and ultimately the film more or less became about how do we get the falling back, how do we avenge, how do we move on, and all these different themes, you know. And it just, I think that would have closed the chapter with Thanos, and that would have only given him another layer as an antagonist, as a villain. But you know, I'm sure other people are going to look at the film differently and still like the fact that he is a sociopath that does have levels of empathy, even if he does things a certain way. So yeah, that's my one discrepancy there with Thanos. But other than that, he's still one of the best villains of all time, in my opinion. You know, I mean, compared with the Joker, he especially in The Dark Knight, when he talks about himself, he's so crazy that he changes his own origin story 2 or 3 times in The Dark Knight. So there again, you know, what do you want in your villain, you know? So yeah, that now leads me now to talk about. Okay, now let's talk about the epic trio with Cap, Iron Man, and Thor. That was nuts to see when Thor. I think I've already talked about this in my previous spoiler talk part 1. But when I saw Thor pulling Mjolnir, pulling Stormbreaker, that's when I knew shit was about to go down, son. Man, I was on the edge of my seat. Fucking epic. And then obviously Thanos is it's crazy because Thanos was just as dangerous without the gauntlet. And that was like, oh shit, this guy's the real deal, you know. And I will say this, Thanos' double-edged sword, that has got to be one of the coolest weapons I've ever seen in a movie. That double-edged sword, that shit's epic, yeah. As a matter of fact, I want to get a figure with that double-edged sword and put it somewhere in this office. And obviously in the future this whole setup will change, and then you will see that double-edged sword that Thanos has got, because that weapon, I don't know, just the way the design, the graphic design on it, the way it was made was brilliant. So yeah, the whole fight explodes with those 4 characters. And do you know what I kind of like is that every time that Iron Man drops into a scene, they always make it a throwback to the first Iron Man, the way that, because you remember in the first Iron Man when Iron Man drops down in front of the terrorists, They always use that same shot, and I'm like, every time that I see it, it just gets more and more epic. So yeah, I love it. But then Thanos is getting the better of Fat Thor, and we then start to see Mjolnir start to rise, and then it flies over Thanos' head, and then boom, Cap's got it. I'm telling you, at that moment, man, I'm telling you, the whole frigging theatre erupted. Popcorn was flying. I saw someone's 3D glasses fly from one end of the room to the other. I don't know if that guy got his 3D glasses, but hell, that it turned into just, the atmosphere was just electric when that happened. And bearing in mind, I saw this during the opening weekend with all the fans, and it was just absolute raucous atmosphere. It was brilliant. I've never seen Cineworld, Enfield Cineworld erupt like that in my entire life. Have I ever seen that? And man, we were just on the edge of our seats. Bang, just Mortal Kombat combinations coming from Cap. Shield, Mjolnir, bang, summon the lightning, pull it back down. Oh man, it was just so epic. And then when you think, because obviously the purple chin prick got the better of him, and then I thought that was it for Catman. I really did. And then we see him walk out to Thanos, and I was like, "This is it, man. I'm gonna lose one of my heroes here." And then the portal opens up. And then T'Challa, Shuri roll through. Everyone comes back. The Guardians come back. Spider-Man comes through. And then, man, I'm telling you, man, it's like my dream had come true. I'm telling you, man. Wakandans as Guardians, Sorcerer Supremes. And then you see Valkyrie on her Pegasus. And I was like, my dream has come true. Just brilliant. And everyone's there, and then this Alan Silvestri theme tune kicks in, dum 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 dum, and then we see Drax hit his pose. Avengers, Thor hits back on the ground. Cap pulls back in Mjolnir. Assemble, and fuck me, just everyone just going gun ho, running, absolute nuts. I mean, for the short amount of time that Spider-Man was in this, that made him so friggin' epic. And we saw him pull an insta-kill, and this was hinted at back a long time ago. Not a long time ago, but 2 years ago in Homecoming, where it was a setting that he had on his suit, but he didn't want to use it because he was scared, but he used it in Endgame, and for the 5 seconds he used it with a bop, 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 just taking out all the alien Chitauri was epic. And then we had, oh my god, T'Challa done this Mortal Kombat combination. I swear I nearly done a backflip out of my seat. He jumps off this ledge, does a double spinning back kick, knees an alien Chitauri in the face, comes back down and does a sonic boom and just knocks out 5 other people. I was just like, what am I witnessing? I was just at that point, I was like, I'm watching one of the best battles of all time. So yeah, man, just nuts. And then we had Valkyrie just filleting that mother Chitauri. That was epic, man. The Russos just find a way just to make every character just look sick. And then before I forget, when Pepper rolled through, I was just like, oh my god, even she's here. And even Hope Van Dyne was there. And I'm telling you, the mid-range close-up shot of Pepper and Tony back to back, just blasting everyone. Oh man, that scene there just, it touched me, man. I was like, I waited for this for so long. Even Pepper's here with us on this journey. Just amazing, man. And then I love the whole interaction with Scarlet Witch and Thanos. You know, you took everything away from me, And Thanos is like, I don't even know who you are. It's just such a nonchalant thing to say. And when he said that, I knew he was effed. Me and my friends were like, yeah, he's effed now, you know. And she just lifts him up, nearly gonna rip him apart. And then we see the whole, and then obviously Captain Marvel gets the drop, and then they're all doing their thing, and all the, you know, all the females of the MCU have now come together and blasted Thanos as well. As that's all going on, we see Doctor Strange talk with Tony, and you know, he's telling them that there's only one outcome, and Tony wants to know, but he tells him, look, if I tell you, it's not going to happen. And that's such a callback to Infinity War and Doctor Strange's reaction when he's looked into time and he's looking at him. Because I actually watched Infinity War again today, and you can tell he knows something, but he doesn't want to tell him. And that's why in Infinity War, that's why he spares his life, because he's obviously seen into the future, because Tony is the key. And then it's then revealed that Tony finds a way to get the gauntlet, and the man had shivers, and he just takes his time. And oh man, I am Iron Man, and it clicks. Man, at that point, there was not a part of me that was going to think that he was going to die when he done that, you know, because for years we'd thought he's Iron Man and he's, you know, he can do anything, you know, and then when we see him backed up against the ledge, and man, the man, I still can't get in my head the look from Rhodey when he looks at Tony and half his body is just frazzled. Oh man, just the reaction from Rhodey, and then Pete comes and we won, and there's nothing from Tony, he's just not there. And Pepper she comes over and she's proud of him, of what he's done, because Pepper, she always knew that no matter what she'd done in their relationship with Tony, she always knew that Iron Man was always a part of him, that there was nothing that she could do to change that part of Tony. Because as much as Tony says that he wants to settle down and live this life, Iron Man is a part of him, and he has to do the greater good. And you know, everything's gonna be okay, you can rest now. And oh man, like, and she kisses him on the cheek. When she kissed him on the cheek and gave him the final kiss, man, torrential crying, man. I was seeing grown-ass men just in complete despair, just gone. Man, that one line is just such a callback to the first 11, to the, you know, all those years ago, 11 years ago. And you know, it's funny because I'm doing this review now, and today is when they released the first Iron Man film. And what a weird combination it's all come to. I'm now doing this YouTube channel, and the whole point was that I got inspired to Iron Man, and here I am now talking about Iron Man. So yeah, like, just nuts. And obviously the whole epic send-off for him was just emotional. And Morgan as well, you know, it just makes me feel sad, man. Like, where does that character now go to? Where does, you know, and ultimately his send-off, all the heroes were there to see him off, and it's just poetic justice, because Iron Man started this, or this all started off with Jon Favreau believing in RDJ. When Jon Favreau, believe it or not, when he went to go talk to the producers, they said no, he's a washed out deadbeat, you know, because where RDJ was in his career 11 years ago, things weren't looking good for him. He was like a recovering alcoholic, a recovering drug addict, and Jon Favreau said no, and he stuck to his gun. And I just thank that guy so much for believing in his heart and believing in other people. And, you know, because of his decision to stick with his heart, to give RDJ the opportunity to be Iron Man, it exploded into this crazy universe. So my love and my regards go to Jon Favreau. I thank that guy so much. And I thank him so much because ultimately that director was one of the reasons why I was inspired to do movie reviews and acting and doing dramatic arts. I owe a lot to him, to be honest with you, and pray to God one day maybe I get to shake his hand. So absolutely great, you know. But in terms of with Avengers Endgame, what they've done, if you can put aside all the other, you know, some of the things I brought up in this review with the certain plot holes with certain characters, but if you look at the story with Cap and Iron Man, it's a beautiful story that has expanded 11 years with those two characters, you know. Cap, he went into the ice for 7 years. 70 years, he come back out, and his whole generation, everything that he'd loved and everything around him was gone, and he was living in a different world. Imagine that. And you have to find a way to fit in. I think on the whole, what they've done with that character is that anyone can relate with him. And that's what's so brilliant about Captain America's character and his arc throughout the whole MCU, you know. And I think one of the big points with Tony is that Tony's always believed that he's always been mistreated by his dad. And obviously that's not the case, because we get to go back in time and we see that Howard was just trying to do his best at the time, and that he was only trying to love him the only way he knew how. And you know, love sometimes is not a thing of always pats on the back and, okay, here's this and here. Sometimes it's about telling people the hard truth and telling, even if it's something you don't want to hear, it's only something that's going to help you in the future. And that's what Howard was. He was always trying to do the best for him, even if it meant even if it kind of felt as if it was detachment from him, you know. And I loved that, you know. And because Tony felt a detachment from